You hold the door open, you lower your voice, you give, you forgive, you try to be the better person, but you're still ignored, used, overlooked. Because the world doesn't reward kindness, it exploits it. And if that truth makes you uncomfortable, good, because it means you're waking up. There's a difference between being nice and being respected. And if you don't learn that difference, life will keep teaching it to you. The hard way. Niccolo Machiavelli once said, "It is much safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." A quote that's been branded as ruthless, but beneath the surface it's simply honest. Machiavelli wasn't teaching cruelty. He was exposing the algorithm of human nature, because in the grand theater of society, niceness is often the costume people wear when they're afraid to be real. And the world, it doesn't clap for costumes, it claps for power. See nice people hold doors, lower their voices, and wait their turn. But the harsh truth is, while you're trying to be liked, someone else is being remembered. In a world wired for dominance, niceness is often mistaken for nervousness. Smiles are seen as submission, politeness as passivity, agreeability as absence of conviction. You become background noise, predictable, replaceable, like wallpaper, noticed only when it peels. Every time you choose comfort over confrontation, approval over assertion, you're not just compromising, you're shrinking. You think you're being generous. They think you're giving yourself away. You think you're showing humility. They think you're unsure of your worth. You think you're being good. They assume you're harmless. But here's the twist. The people who rise aren't always the most skilled. They're the most seen, the most certain, the least afraid to disturb the waters. Niceness without edges is a currency without weight. It doesn't purchase respect. It buys delay until someone bolder comes along and cashes in. We're taught to be soft to keep the peace. But what good is peace if it costs your presence? In the language of power, boundaries speak louder than favors, and certainty walks taller than sympathy. If you live only to be liked, you'll die only to be forgotten. Because you're not living, you're performing, reading lines from a script you didn't write, playing the background while others take center stage. But here's the revelation. You don't have to become cold. You just have to become calculated. Kindness is still a virtue. But kindness with no spine is charity to those who don't value it. Be kind. But be firm, be good, but be sharp, be generous, but never at the expense of your voice. Because respect isn't born from being agreeable. It's born from being undeniable. Why weak kindness is ignored. We don't chase what's easy. We don't treasure what's always available. And we rarely respect what we believe we can control. It's not cruelty that commands attention. It's clarity, conviction, restraint. Because in the psychology of power, uncertainty is more magnetic than politeness, and value is measured not in how much you give, but in how much you're willing to withhold. The paradox of niceness. The more you offer without demand, the less they see your worth. Nice people, they rush to say yes, to be agreeable, to not disturb the peace, to blend in, to not seem difficult. But what they don't see is, when you avoid tension, you create invisibility. You become a mirror for other people's needs, and a ghost to your own. As the Stoic Epictetus once warned, a ship should not ride on every wave, nor a man give his heart to every impulse. In other words, anchor yourself. Because without an anchor, you're not kind. You're carried by expectations, by projections, by people who only come close to take more than they give. True kindness, real kindness, isn't found in appeasement. It's found in boundaries, the power to say no. I won't tolerate that. I choose peace, but not at the cost of my self-respect. I walk away, not because I'm weak, but because I finally remember my worth. People don't remember who bent the most. They remember who stood still while the crowd leaned. They remember the ones who were calm in chaos, who smiled with purpose, who gave without losing themselves in the giving. Because here's the truth they never taught you. Kindness without strength doesn't heal the world. It feeds the wolves. It's not virtue, it's vulnerability, unarmored and unpaid for. If your kindness costs you your voice, your boundaries, your balance, that's not generosity. That's a slow form of self-erasure. Be kind, yes, but never be conquered by your kindness. Let your no carry as much weight as your yes. Let your silence speak volumes, and let your presence remind the room. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be respected. Stoic strength and the good man. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, commander of legions, master of the world's most powerful empire. And yet, his greatest victories weren't on the battlefield. They were within. In a world that demanded cruelty to survive, he chose character over conquest, discipline over dominance. He once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Understand what that means. He had the sword. He had the armies. He had the power to destroy, but he chose to govern himself. He wasn't soft. He was still. He wasn't kind because he had to be. He was kind because he could afford to be. And that is what separates the good man from the obedient one. Not weakness, will. Because true goodness isn't the absence of power, it's the mastery of it. Aurelius knew that anger is easy, retaliation is quick, but restraint is divine. Seneca, another titan of Stoic thought, said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." And that's the paradox, power. You only know what kind of man you are. When you could have become a monster, but didn't. To choose kindness in a world that gives you every excuse to be cruel. That's power refined. That's character forged in fire. Because virtue only means something when it's backed by the ability to do the opposite. It's easy to be gentle when you're harmless, but when you have every weapon, every advantage, every reason to retaliate, and instead you choose stillness, you choose the higher road, you choose yourself over your pride. That's not weakness, that's royalty. So don't be the man who bites only because he has teeth. Be the one who knows when to bear them and when to smile instead. Because in a world addicted to reaction, calm is the final form of strength. Real-world examples of dangerous kindness. Alexander the Great spared conquered kings, not out of mercy, but to remind the world that he could destroy, and chose not to. His kindness was not submission, it was strategy, a show of power worn like silk over steel. Nelson Mandela forgave his oppressors, but make no mistake, he did not forget. His forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was dominance through discipline, because true power doesn't panic. It doesn't need to shout, scream, or swing wildly. It whispers, and the world listens. Think about the boardroom, where chaos erupts and voices climb. The leader who sits still speaks slow and cuts through noise with measured clarity. That's the one everyone fears, not the one pounding on the table, the one who doesn't need to. On the battlefield, the Navy SEAL who stays calm in conflict, who doesn't posture, doesn't threaten, but speaks with stillness. He is far more terrifying than the man yelling with a gun, because you don't fear loud men. You fear the quiet ones who know exactly what they're capable of. Kindness from power is magnetic. Kindness from weakness is ignored. When a strong man chooses grace, the world leans in. When a weak man offers the same, the world looks away. Because kindness without capability is charity. But kindness with capability, that's command. Nice versus good versus dangerous. Let's make the distinction clear. Nice is agreeable, bendable, a mirror for approval. Good is rooted in values, firm in principle, strong is unmoved by noise, steady under fire. But dangerous is different. Dangerous is power, tamed. It's the wolf who no longer hunts, not because it can't, but because it chooses when and why. As Nietzsche wrote, "A harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very dangerous man who has it under voluntary control." In a world obsessed with perception, being nice might win you smiles. But only being dangerous earns respect. Dangerous is not chaotic, it's not violent, it's not unstable. It's presence, discipline. It's the calm storm behind the eyes. So if you want to be taken seriously, become capable. If you want your no to carry weight, become unshakable. Let your kindness be a weapon sheathed, not a weakness exposed. Let your silence create suspense. Let your absence be felt as powerfully as your presence. Because when they know what you're capable of, even your gentleness becomes intimidating. How to become good, strong, dangerous. Here's how to evolve. Build your body, not to impress, to prepare. A strong frame teaches discipline, and the world reads it as authority. Master your emotions. Don't react to chaos. Respond to truth. Still waters reflect best. Turbulent ones distort. Enforce your boundaries silently. You don't need to announce your standards. You only need to uphold them. Speak less. Watch more. Because power doesn't chase attention. It draws it. Walk away from anything that drains you. Time, energy, respect. It's all capital. Guard it like royalty. And when you choose to be kind, make it rare. Make it earned. Make it memorable. Let them feel your mercy. Let them remember what you could have done and didn't. Because the scariest kindness comes from the one with the sharpest sword still in its sheath. Stop being nice. Start being principled, rooted, unmoved by noise. Start being powerful, able to protect, able to walk away, able to decide. Start being dangerous, in silence, in posture, in presence. The world isn't kind, but you can be, so long as your kindness isn't free. Let it cost something. Let it carry weight. Be good, be strong, be dangerous, and let them wonder. What happens if you ever stop holding back? Has being too nice ever cost you? Drop your story in the comments. Subscribe for deeper wisdom from the minds of Aurelius, Machiavelli, Epictetus, and beyond.